Exploring the unknown, from conspiracies to mysteries, you are entering the conspiracy sector.
Well, welcome everyone to this very special program. I'm your host, Aubrey Batchelor. Sailing this divine ship of amazing knowledge with me is Chris Jacobs, and you are entering the conspiracy sector. Chris and I have a doozy one for you today. We've kind of decided to do like a pre-Halloween episode for you today. The topics that we're going to be talking about can will get you in the mood for the upcoming Halloween season, and that's always a fun time for everyone that loves all these strange things that go bump in the night. But today we're going to be talking about cursed objects, anything cursed, and there's many things that can be cursed. You may have even bought a cursed item at a garage sale. It could have been a golf ball that was somebody's favorite golf ball. It could be something totally just plain and simple that somebody had a spiritual attachment to that they didn't want to let go of. And there's a lot of them out there that are claimed to be. Some famous ones are, Robert the Doll. How about Annabelle? Ed and Lorraine Warren, for those people who know who they were, they're kind of the masters of cursed objects, I might say. They're the ones that kind of catapulted the cursed objects into the spotlight. They have a museum in Connecticut, I believe, where they have Annabelle behind a glass door. Absolutely do not open this case. Why? Because the doll's cursed. And so there's a wide variety of things that could be cursed, from dolls to a vehicle. There's songs and movies and all these portrayals of different curses, that we've seen in Hollywood and read about. It's just a really amazing topic. And what if things are actually cursed and we have them in our homes and we're not aware of, their possible powers? Who knows? I can't measure it, but it could be happening. I can't help but feel that I've maybe came across or have had something that might have some sort of energy or spiritual attachment to it, or just something. And like I said, going into an old antique store, you can't help but feel that way with certain items a lot of the time. I know that, Chris, you like antiquing. Have you ever walked through some antique store, you just like gravitated towards one item, not just because you liked it, but just because something else told you to go look at
Oh,
it?
most definitely. I've run into that multiple times, actually, where one in particular, this particular case takes the cake. This goes into the haunted doll category, where Joanne and I went into an antique slash thrift store. And there was this, I've heard this like voice before we went into the store that was calling me in there. I'm going, okay, something creepy is in here. And we went towards the back of the store, up on a top shelf that was kind of looking, there was a doll looking down, like kind of over the store. I figured at first maybe the owners had maybe stuck a camera in there and they were just having it angled properly or something like that.
Hmm.
But I looked at this thing and I could hear this like child's voice coming from it and everything. And I looked inside of it like I do with people when I do energy work on them, and this thing actually had an active energy core in it, meaning there was like a human soul crammed in there.
Hmm.
And what I did was I energetically pulled it out and noticed it was the soul of a little girl that was stuck in there. So I sent her on to the other side, but it was a ghost that was stuck in there. And then the object stopped doing what it was doing, but it was creepy.
how, how do you believe that a spirit or orb or whatever can, like, take an object over? How do you think it can possess an object?
Well, rituals can do it. You can bind someone's soul to an object. I've seen that done multiple times. When I'm attempting to sometimes clear a site that's very obstinate, I will create a trap in order to get some of the negative energies away from a place. Someone could easily take this ritual where you bind energies to a crystal, wrap it in wire, and have different nails and pins coming off of it. And it takes the whole bones of an animal thing and everything. Because I had some antlers laying around and I used that. That works. And I wrapped it in a red cloth and basically did this whole binding ritual for this negative energy. And it worked. It was a demonic entity that got trapped in there. You can do the reverse of that by taking a doll and basically declaring that soul bound to that in basically all dimensions, expressions, and timelines. Essentially, they are trapped within that particular binding. You would have to know exactly what you're doing to do this. You can do this with demons, human souls, animals.
I was just going to say, everybody, don't be foolish and be trying to create your own curses towards everybody, because who knows what you might unleash upon yourselves.
No, you never want to do that, because it's always a pendulum swing with something like that. Unless you're doing it to something evil, don't do it to anything good, because there's this pendulum swing that will then entangle you to the said object as well.
And it goes to show you how many ways, like you said, binding rituals across different, all the way around the world. Look at all the different ways that there are to probably bind something, that have been practiced before. One that comes to my mind, voodoo.
Voodoo dolls,
Voodoo.
It's very interesting. We can go into that on a witchcraft episode at some point, but voodoo is interesting because, it's also being done for healing or hurting. If you take, they always show taking a block of the person's hair and adding it to the voodoo doll. Well, that forms an entanglement to the person. And then each of those pins that you stick in it then is reaching into their energy core via the hair antennae, essentially, or the channel source or the cord. And through that, then you are able to stick those pins in someone and actually do them harm or do them healing, essentially. The original intent for it was healing, but it got flipped over to the negative side after a while. But also some of the other cursed objects I've run into, some everyday stuff that people don't realize, photographs.
Oh yeah, capturing the moment.
Yeah, capture. You take the energy and it's captured in the moment. But what if it's a moment that you were locked into something negative, or there was a spot in your life you're no longer compatible with? It could keep regurgitating that energy over and over again in the moment. And I find if you burn a photograph that has that energy on it, gets rid of it immediately, or if you even toss it in the garbage and say you relinquish ownership of it.
You just brought one into my mind here. Like you said, photograph. There's actually a cursed photograph that's pretty well known. It's called the Crying Boy. Apparently, I'll have to see if I can look up something into it here real quick.
Okay.
But yeah, that just goes to show, artwork can be possessed, cursed or possessed too, probably.
Same difference.
The eyes are winking at me.
I saw, I had this object in our house that I'd had since we lived on Hartley Street in Lincoln. It was this portrait of a knight that I had. And when Joanna wanted me to get rid of this thing. So she showed it to me one day. She turned around. I had a cloth over it, and she turned around and showed it to me. And the moment I looked at this image, I saw it stick out its tongue and go blah, 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 at me. I'm like, okay. We got to get this out of the house. But it's like, okay. I saw that creepy thing. I'm like, okay. I saw it literally visually with my eyes, not like, energetically or anything. It's just like, okay, it's going. But at that point, I'd had that from Hartley Street when we lived there in Lincoln. But yeah, that was an incredibly haunted house that we lived in. But the painting thing,
I'm glad I never swung by that place. What other activity did you have there at Hartley? Did you have anything?
Well, Hartley, yeah, we had portals, we had haunted objects there, like photographs. We had action figures that were haunted that had attachments on them that would move and crap like that. We had aliens that showed up the whole bit over there on Hartley, and it was saturated with this creepy energy after a while. And when we moved away from there, we noticed a big release from that energy. And any objects, interestingly enough, that I still own from that house had an extremely dense energy on them, very, very dense energy. And I had to get rid of like 9/10. Even my photography equipment had this incredibly dense energy, including the camera. The camera itself had not only were aliens screwing around with it, but it had this very saturated, very dark energy attached to it. So I went and I donated that. Here's the interesting part was when we stopped by the Goodwill with all of this stuff, I popped open the back door of the car. It all flew out of the back car and hit me right like in front right here, not just in the face, but like the whole front of me. Something threw all the objects at me because it was pissed that I was getting rid of all the stuff from there. So I found that very interesting. It just flung at me like boom. And it was the camera bag itself. It was about this big. and just went and just flung it at me. And right out the back of the car, even the Goodwill person standing next to me saw this. So this guy was like, okay, but when he saw this, he just kind of he didn't process it completely.
But gonna unpack the car and leave as soon as I can.
That's what I did. He grabbed everything real quick, put it in a little container, and said, "Here's a receipt, and get out of here," sort of thing. Like that. But cursed objects like that, anything can become imbued like that, especially if there's been a murder or some kind of ritual done, a satanic ritual done. Like skulls are some of the worst offenders in this, even though I'm one that makes like resin skulls like this guy here. Mm-hmm. And this has turquoise and shungite silver in it. And
that looks pretty.
This its predecessor, the one I molded to make these in the resin, that one had such a heavy energy, and even though that was a piece of cat's eye or a tiger's eye, skulls, anything with a face, it tends to get taken over by anything if you don't maintain it. Masks are another one, and masks, anything with eyes, face, anything. You have to be very, very careful. But this is why I imbue all my objects with good energies, and I have shungite and silver. Those are two substances that cannot be corrupted by evil. So silver being one of the best ones in history, like silver coins and such. It's good for repelling evil, so I put silver and shungite in every object that we make, and it's none of them have ever been taken over, even the skulls. So I thought that was actually quite interesting. We make fairy statues, things of that nature, that way. Paintings, you have to be very, very careful. We had a painting that we had hanging on our wall in this room. Well, you can't see over here, but we had it hanging on the wall, and this painting was entangled with the person who created it, and it had created a conduit, and all this stuff was spilling out into our house. And we had to get rid of the painting. When we did it, the activity stopped, and it didn't hurt anybody else. It was just us. Also, when we went to Washington, D.C., we went to one of the art museums there, and we saw this creepy painting of this girl. Had these this, like, it was also another crying person. We saw the big-eyed crying girl that was like maybe teenage years and looked to be like Victorian era type painting. And we looked at it, and I saw it turn and look at me, kind of like in the movie Ghostbusters 2, where they had that painting with that Dark Lord that was in the picture that he had like bound himself to the painting. It's like that was the exaggerated version of this, and this was creepy because we both saw it turn and look at us as we were standing there, and this wasn't an illusion either. It was because she was looking off this way, and we saw this. It's a full head movement. It wasn't like it was like the eyes moved or anything. This was like a full head movement. And when we saw this, we're like, okay, something's stuck in there. So I figured I would look, and there was literally an entire inside of this was like this woman that was in there that was, I don't know what she was, and she had her whole world inside of this painting. And they depicted that in the Witcher game series, where Geralt goes inside of a painting where there's a ghost stuck that made its own world in there. And basically, he called it a pin, basically being pinned, or a pin or a staple or something of a realm that somebody's created for themselves, or an emotion that created it.
Speaking of that, while you just mentioned that, I came across a little tidbit. I should have got something ready for this. I should have saved the tab, but I came across a haunted video game. A cursed video game, excuse me. I forget we're talking about curses, haunted, whatever. It's all intertwined.
Same difference, yeah.
It's all intertwined and intermingled anyhow.
Yeah.
But a cursed video game, to where I'll have to see if I can find something about it. But I thought that was interesting. That adds to the list. So you're taking the cursing of objects, and it's going digital. So there's things online that can be cursed, So that's kind of the crazy thing, correlation. There's really no boundaries with it. There's
I find that very, very interesting. You brought up electronics, because I had a file in my computer forever that was actually cursed, and this was a famous voicemail that we got many years ago on Hartley Street, same place. that it was the vocals and the frequency from this basically cursed and bound anybody that heard it. So I had to delete this file, and I recently found this when I cleared crap out of my disk archive. I got rid of my disk archive, and I can always attach those files to this, where this curse literally, when I realized I was getting rid of it, started affecting all the electronics in the house, and it spread. It's just like, okay, I don't know if people know this reference. There was a show on years ago called Are You Afraid of the Dark? And there was this episode where there was this being trapped in a computer, or it was like a computer virus demon type of thing, an AI type of thing. And as soon as they able to unleash this thing, try to kill it, it jumped from electronic to electronics to try to defend itself. And they eventually killed it. Well, that fell under curse. It was a little exaggerated, but I've heard of stories similar to that. Well, this file fell into that category, and our TV was acting screwy. We thought it was messed up. But as soon as I got rid of the last disk that this file was saved on, everything restored to normal after that. As soon as I threw it in the garbage and said, I declare this no longer my property anymore, it was done. I revoked the ownership of it. And so cursed files. Oh yeah, computer stuff, digital stuff falls still into the magical realm, because technology and science and magic tend to be linked at the hip, intertwined with each other. Like mysticism, magic, and cursed objects and rituals all tend to be linked too, and hauntings all linked. So
that's what I like about ancient alchemy. And one of our first episodes of Voynich manuscript. What was that about?
Oh yeah, the alchemy. Oh yeah, alchemy. I use that all the time when I make these objects and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
I use, stones and stuff together that do have certain properties, like say black tourmaline has healing properties to it, and I mix that with amber, which also has both healing and grounding properties, and shungite, which has radioactive absorption and negative entity repelling properties. So, and silver, same difference. So it has the ability to repel negative entities. So if you combine these different things together, you can not only clear a haunted object or a cursed object if you know the nature of the curse. Like if anybody plays the Witcher game series, where he investigates how to undo curses and such and kill monsters, if you know how to back engineer it, any curse can be undone. You just have to know the history behind it, and you also have to know what could possibly repel certain energies and certain entities. So that's what people have me look into that stuff all the time to clear their houses and clear their homes. And I've come up with a ton of different concoctions to keep land clear of certain types of beings. Like, for example, I came up with this was an ancient remedy for a type of demon that looks like a plant. And you take tar water and put it around someone's property, and it repels that type of demon forever after, because it stays on property. It's very sticky, and it stays in place. Even when it rains or snows or what have you, or whatever, it repels it. But different objects can, like going back to the skulls that we had. I had to get rid of every crystal skull we ever had, because the predecessor skull to that one and several others, even the one Isaac used to use, I had to make a new one for him, because what happened was all these got infiltrated because they had faces, and they have anything with faces tend to be a certain interface, like you're talking to someone. I even had a big Balinese mask that used to sit right behind me here that would be like almost like a sentinel. Well, I saw it putting attachments on people that would walk in the room. I found out it had been possessed, so I had to get rid of that. And so anything with a face, that's a rule of thumb. Anything with a face, you have to be careful, from dolls to action figures to skulls to animal skulls. They can be used as a repellent if you know the whole, again, the binding rituals and the repelling rituals and stuff like that. That can be in a Halloween episode we do about rituals and such, but that's an episode in and of itself, because it would be too long and involved. But yeah, you got to be careful with anything with a face, rule of thumb, from paintings to pictures to any of that. With photographs, I saw a show one time where someone's soul had been trapped in a film reel. And this also happens because, the celluloid film reel, it's magnetic, and things can get bound into the films. And what happened was, in this show, this ghost was trapped in there and was haunting a ship. And they had to find a way to free that person by finding his history out. I've seen all sorts of stuff like when doing horror films. You got to be careful because films can be haunted. Even though the horror genre, I like some of the horror genre and everything, but there was a specific case I saw. Someone in Japan came to me one time, said that they were working on a movie set and weird crap was happening there. They wanted me to look into it. And I said, did anybody do a ritual here? Well, no, we did a film about negative rituals. I said, yeah, but the demonic entities didn't know the difference between an actual film and a real ritual because they put actual ritual wording and everything into the film. And it started conjuring jinn and demons. Within that film, the movie, those same jinn and demons kept getting reconjured over and over and over and over.
And apparently the jinn is, I know Rosemary Ellen Guiley said that they're like the oldest creature, whatever you want to call them, in existence.
Yeah, the jinn, I mean, they're in Middle Eastern myth and lore, they call them the smokeless flame type demons, but there's several types. There's the standard genie look, and then you have ones that look like a miniature Hellboy look, kind of in a way. Then you have ones that look kind of fish-like, either blue or red. Those are either fire demons or water sprites. And I found out that also people that engage in their wishes tend to all the wishes tend to go wrong. And the lamp that they stay in or bottle, either one, it's been known to be either one, like Aladdin's lamp or a genie bottle or a cave. And they can haunt the site to make it cursed. They can take their bottle or lamp, and it tends to be a cursed object in and of itself. Jinn are one of the most dangerous demon types I've ever run across, and they can curse objects, they can curse homes, they can literally change the abundance dynamic of someone's life just by plucking their threads of their life, essentially, kind of like the fates in Greek mythology, where they pluck the threads of fate. Essentially, that's what jinn do, and they pluck what I call luck threads. Like, say, if you have a great abundance in your life, and you have a jinn around you, if you don't do what they want you to do, they'll flip it around to where you won't have abundance. They will take abundance away and give it to, either switch it to someone else and swap it out, what I call karmic dumping. They'll swap it around. And Kabbalist mystics instead do the same thing, where they take their own karmic cycles and dump it on to someone else, so that they don't have to basically pay the piper, essentially. And it's a sleazy, very sleazy magic trick that they use. That's why some people don't get ahead in life, and then all these evil shits do it. So it's like they pull that trick. Jinn do the same. They will, if you're in their favor, that you'll get all the money and wealth you want. If you're not, they'll curse the crap out of you. So it's that's what makes them dangerous, and you don't always know when they're around either. So
maybe that's what's up with me.
That very well could be. There could be jinn that have come through different objects, been attached to objects. Ouija boards is a big one that jinn are attached to.
Never have messed with one yet.
Yeah, if you have one, I would suggest people burn Ouija boards. They're one of the most cursed objects of all time, because they were literally created by some of these Kabbalist cults in order to get people. This is why they're sold at toy stores, because what happens is they want kids to mess with it, create a portal, and out pop the jinn. So into their house. And these Kabbalist mystics take these jinn from some of the darker realms out there, and they imbue them into these Ouija boards. And some people think using them is about skill. That's incorrect. Channeling, yes, that's about skill and discernment. Pendulum, that's about skill and discernment. So are tarot cards. Ouija boards, they were programmed from the get-go to be cursed completely. That's how I differentiate those objects. The others you have to be careful with, so you don't open a doorway. This one is always the negative doorway over here. So that's why I never mess with those. That's why I know I sidetracked a little bit. That's that I ended up Ouija boards, and people got to realize, never mess with these things. You will mess up a whole neighborhood with one of these things. So if you have one, if you're in possession of one, I would highly suggest that you burn it. Just put it in like a fire outside. If you have a fire pit or a can, you can have a little bum fire in the backyard, throw it in there, and just get rid of it. You will notice if you're having some difficulties in life and you have one of those, you burn it, it'll start to improve after that. Yeah, and some people collect them, and I think that's ridiculous, because I know people like the style. I get it. I get that completely. But it's one of the most cursed object types of all time.
And don't play around with it, especially if you don't know what you're bringing through.
No. I earlier in life, I played with one of those, and we noticed some things change in our life pretty quickly after that.
Don't mess around with no Ouija board. But I'm going to dive on into an article here. We're going to go back to a cursed painting here. This is pretty interesting. And let me switch it on over. I'll go right over here and boom. That's my email. You see that?
Yeah, yeah, there we go. Now it's working right. Yeah.
All right. We're working. We're rocking. This is the painting of the crying boy. And supposedly, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is an article from atlasobscure.com by Natalie Zarelli. In the middle of the night in Thatcher era England, a home in South Yorkshire succumbed to a fire. The lounge room was charred black, drapes and furniture reduced to ash. The owners of the home, Ron and Mary Hall, lost nearly everything to the blaze except one item, a painting of a crying boy, his wide eyes looking out from the wreckage, not even blackened by smoke. This wasn't the first time the picture of a crying boy had been found amid the ashes of a torched home. So this keeps repeating itself. Only this painting, different reproductions of this painting, prints of this painting. There's slight variations of this painting, but there's many homes, one after the other, like this one. On September 4th, 1985, British tabloid The Sun published Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy picture. A story about a very unlucky painting that causes fires supported the comments of a local fire station officer. These paintings, the firefighter said, turned up mysteriously unscathed from fires across the UK, all of which started spontaneously. It was well known. He would never think of owning this cursed painting himself. The couple had laughed off warnings that their painting was cursed, wrote The Sun. Let all other heed the warning and get rid of their own gaint painting of crying children immediately. Yeah, it just repeats itself over and over. And this painting is the only thing that isn't destroyed. There might be slight, smoking on the prints, but it repeats over and over. And there's many examples of this painting, and slight variations of it only being the thing left standing. And there's different theories. They range from even, the ink or the material it's made out of being slightly fire resistant to, the painting itself had a thin cord that hung on a nail, and that was the first thing to snap, and the paintings would be face down on the ground, so it'd be the last thing to get touched. There's all these different theories, but you can't deny that that's pretty eerie. You can see a picture of the crying boy. This is the most famous rendition of the painting. And
oh yeah, that has a lot of negativity surrounding it. The reason that something like that would happen, a curse like that would be in existence, is like, say it embodied some kind of like powerful like sadness or powerful emotion or powerful imbuing or binding, and that it would then repeat those set of circumstances. Ghosts tend to do this. Like a ghost could inhabit it, but you can take that essence and regurgitate it in multiple different forms and variations like that, and it would cause the same set of circumstances. Like a ghost, for example, can put empathic transference on you, where they can make you feel like how they died, or you become sick the same way they did if they had a disease or a virus or something like that. It's the same with these types of curses, and they could literally like if it caused a fire, it could cause a fire each time, and it would be like basically like copy and pasting a file. Copy and paste this version, this version, this version. It's the same thing. And until someone back engineers that to the original origin point of when that occurred and breaks that, it would keep happening. And if people focused on it, also they could make it louder and more vibrant to add fuel to the fire. But in this case, it was like this perpetual motion machine where it just kept going and going and going, like the Energizer Bunny. So yeah, I've run across things similar to that where they just keep regurgitating themselves, these types of curses. And there is something out there. People find this one hard to believe. It's called somebody we know called it an entanglement monster, and nicknamed this an entanglement monster. Reason being is like if you have like a curse that starts with like the crying boy, it could literally regurgitate into multiple variations and encompass a whole area and turn literally into this like big poltergeist of monster in the etherics, and then start to regurgitate the curse in different places and time frames. And then it becomes nearly impossible to get rid of it after a while. Because even people's focus could empower it. The reason I call it a monster is because if you were to look at something like this in its raw form, it would just look like raw emotion, like almost like solid flesh with like hands and faces and stuff like that. If you were to actually see a physical embodiment of it, which it isn't, but if you were to see it like that, we encountered something like this not too long ago when I was trying to figure out what was going on with a friend's business and abundance. So I created another one of those binding traps. And what I did was I just said, okay, any negativity that is bound to any of us enter this trap. And I didn't realize at the time it was going to be this big like entanglement cord that took a couple of hours to get into the trap. And this is the kind of thing that Crying Boy would morph into, is something like that, and its variants. I know that that was a lot, that was a mouthful right there, but that is that's how what actually is involved in these things. And to back engineer this, you would literally have to find its original origin point and the emotional set that a certain human created at the time that it amplified into. You'd have to historically trace it back and figure out, you know, trace the footsteps back to its original point of origin. But if that point of origin's been lost, who knows?
And speaking of tracing back to humans' initial origin, we're going to dive back into our next cursed object, which is a person, Ötzi the Iceman. Many of you may have heard of this story. Those of you who haven't, buckle up, baby. This one's a strange one. Kerpling. The Curse of Ötzi the Iceman. And this is an article from Ripley's.com, believe it or not. Story by Sabrina. High in a remote area of the Ötztal Alps in northern Italy, some 5,300 years ago, Ötzi the Iceman was shot in the back with an arrow, struck in a main artery, and he likely bled to death within minutes and was near perfectly preserved in the ice. Ötzi has become one of the oldest and greatest mummy specimens in the world, so well preserved perhaps that he is still making his mark on the lives of those trying to tell his story. The question, is the Iceman cursed? And this is a strange one. It's kind of similar to the Curse of Tutankhamun, you know, which many people know about, Howard Carter and pyramids and that whole shebang. Ötzi was first discovered in 1991 and quickly became a fascination for researchers, archaeologists, and scientists. As research began, a shocking amount of people related to the finding of the famous mummy began to die premature deaths. The first, Rainer Hin, in 1992. Head of a forensic team examining Ötzi, Hin was one of the first people to make close contact with the Iceman, picking up the cadaver with his bare hands to place it in a body bag. Hin died in a car crash on his way to give a lecture about his findings. This is just the beginning of the alleged curse. Not long after, Kurt Fritz, the mountaineer who led Hin to Ötzi's body, died in an avalanche. An experienced climber who knew the area well, Fritz was the only member of his party to be struck. A few months after Fritz's passing, the only man granted access to film Ötzi's removal from the mountain, Austrian journalist Rainer Holzel, died at the age of 47 of a brain tumor, only months after releasing an hour-long documentary of the excavation. But perhaps the creepiest death of all was that of Helmut Simon. Simon was one of the German tourists who originally found Ötzi in 1991. He was also found dead, frozen in ice near the same spot in 2004. And he was an expert hiker in that area and all that. He had been fallen to his death during a freak blizzard. So, you know, a man that knows the area, knows the, you know, weather patterns, la-di-da. Within an hour of Simon's funeral, Dieter Warnecke, the head of the mountain rescue team sent to find him, died of a heart attack. It doesn't end there. The following year, archaeologist Conrad Spindler, who first inspected Ötzi's remains and publicly scoffed at the curse, declaring it's all a media hype. The next thing you'll be saying, I will be next. Died of complications from multiple sclerosis. Lastly, Dr. Tom Loy carried out a DNA analysis on Ötzi, piecing together the Stone Age story, like you said, aging, sort of came perfect into this, of his death and debunking the theory that he died alone thanks to trace elements of human blood found on his clothes. The discovery was groundbreaking, and Loy was the cusp of finishing a book about it when he was found dead in his Brisbane home at the age of 63. Loy did not believe in the curse either, taking a very scientific approach to the peculiar pattern, much like his colleagues. but at 63 in fair health and one of 7, it's fair to raise an eyebrow. However, the truth is easy. It's to create patterns when you're looking at them. Many other scientists, journalists, photographers, and others have studied Ötzi and gone to live full lives. Alas, the legend continues. In these days, Ötzi the Iceman rests in a refrigerated room in the South Tyrol Archaeological Museum in Bolzano, Italy. He attracts about 300,000 visitors per year. So, do you dare to visit the Iceman?
That's actually quite interesting, where not only is it human co-creation kind of fueling the curse, like what the guy was saying, like, oh, this is media hype, which he's kind of right with people focusing on it. But what started it was transference of either the death circumstances or some kind of energetic mutation that killed these different people, like with Tutankhamun, for instance. That was more viral, though. There was a contagion or mold type that was trapped intentionally in Tutankhamen's tomb, along with the energies of it as well, more of a quantum level. The curse of Tutankhamun, when they opened it up, that's why certain family members were the only ones to die and other ones did not. That was more genetically geared. That was more alien realm. This was more energetic, repetitious, like curse type realm, where each person that came in contact with this, again, this mutated into different variations and different people. And just like the person goes, well, I wonder if I'll be next. Well, ta-da, you just consented to it being there. So, that one does not surprise me too well. But I'm beginning to wonder the personal stories about people that go to Italy and see the body. Like, what did they do? What I'm interested in is what happens in their home life.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened to that?
And it's interesting you say that. Another type of accursed object that you wouldn't think of. I thought this was a strange one. Stories from all around the national parks, people who take rocks. It could just be a gem from a national park, a rock from a national park, a tree limb from a national park. They take it home and they mail it back with letters saying, I took this and I don't want it. Put it back. It's happened from the Hawaii volcanic islands, where they take volcanic rocks, to probably at every state park. I would say has probably gotten something back in the mail when it comes to this cursed taking from land type thing. That's a weird one too,
that one there, specifically with the Hawaiian lava rock. They say that Pele fiercely guards the lava rock. So what happened one time, this is when we were in our storage unit, when I had our workshop in our storage unit, when I was making our pieces over there. The immediate neighbors we had next to us had a bunch of crap in their locker. And I overheard these two guys in there saying, hey, this is that piece of Hawaiian lava rock you took many years ago. And I finally just went out there and talked to them. I said, I don't mean to eavesdrop, but why do you have a piece of Hawaiian lava rock? They're like, we just took this from Hawaii years ago, and there's some weird crap that's been happening. I said, here, I'll give you some money. I'll mail it back to Hawaii. And it's like, and they're like, oh no, we'll do it. I'm thinking, and I heard like this weird in my head. I heard this weird like humming in their locker beforehand. And when nobody was there, I kept hearing pounding noises on the wall from their locker. And then when they said there was Hawaiian lava rock, there was like, oh, there's an elemental force in there that wants it out. And I managed to energetically quell it a little bit. What I did is I just called on benevolent Pele and said, there's something here that requires your attention. I just asked for her assistance in this. I didn't really see too much. I just asked for her assistance, and then the activity stopped after that. What you were saying about pieces of nature in different spots. I went into like say graveyards, for instance, like if you take a piece of a headstone, or you take some dirt, or if you go into a certain like a Indian burial ground or something, take a piece of the dirt or something like that. You're bringing with it that energy that Native Americans are known. I don't want to bash Native Americans at this point in time. I don't want anybody thinking I'm doing this, but they're known for cursing certain areas that they want other people out of, like burial grounds, or if it's a rival tribe, like in the case of Skinwalker Ranch, you had the Navajo and the Utes that were rivals there. So they're known for bringing these weird curses about on land that take on these weird, again, mutated appearances that I've seen. And if you take any piece of a place where there's these weird, if you saw this mutated curse, it would kind of look like a weird, like Blavas or lanky looking like land.
Skinwalker.
Like a like an elemental looking thing, even though skinwalkers are technically werewolves too. But with this, you take even one piece of something like that, you will then bring that entanglement back into your home. And this is why things start to go wrong when people do that. Even though Pele fiercely guards, say, the lava rock, or if you have a native curse that fiercely guards or a native guardian that guards a burial ground or something like that, it's a bad idea to start taking some of these things from some of these haunted sites. Like I saw on a show, Ghost Adventures years ago, where the guy Aaron kept taking pieces of haunted places home with him and wondered why he had all this activity in his house from a multitude of different haunted places. That energy more than likely culminated from every piece and kind of mutated and turned into something else from different parts of the world or different parts of the country. So yeah, with now the only time you can get away with doing something like this, now, I would not recommend this at all, but like I've taken some like dirt in places and put it in my orgone pieces. The Shungite field tends to then be stronger and send its own energy back to the original site. If you're trying to heal a site, that's a good way to do it, but so there's risk involved in that. Another thing, going back to graveyards. There's a person in England that I buy some black witch's salt from for doing land clearings. They come in little bottles about this big, and you can even see some on the shelf up here where I'm pointing above here on the shelf. There's like these little bottles up here. There's these little bottles. What he does is he puts sea salt in there, and he takes sulfur, and he takes graveyard dirt and bitumen, which is asphalt, and merges it all together. Why is the graveyard dirt important? Even though I just said it would entangle you. You take some of that and you mix it with something that disentangles, like salt or bitumen. And you take another agent that would sometimes attract certain negative things like sulfur, and you mix all of that together. And it's a continuous like scrubbing action energetically this takes, and it's good for clearing places. So it cleanses that dirt, and it continuously is always scrubbing the negativity, like a scrubbing bubble effect. And with that, I know we went really far into that. That's more ritual based, but this is the graveyard dirt. I've heard many a story of people taking pieces of gravestones home, and then they wonder why they have problems. And just like when we went to Gettysburg, there was a lot of problems that ensued after we went there. But we went to an orphanage that was like next door, that was also on the show Ghost Adventures, that I sat on the porch in the rocking chair and did a ghost box session. And afterwards, that particular ghost box was cursed. After that, we had to get rid of. We had to give it a Viking funeral after that. But it was burning it. Fire tends to cleanse all these things. One more thing that I did. This was long before the Georgia Guidestones got blown up. What happened was I had a piece of the Georgia Guidestones, and that had fallen on the ground there. It's a piece about that big, and I took it with us. And then we noticed weird activity happening around that. I went and had to go bury it. I burned some of the. I tried to burn it. I tried to vitrify the stone on it, and it didn't work completely. So we took it up to Thumb Butte here in Arizona when we brought it back. There was a lot of paranormal activity happening around that rock, and I went and buried it, and everything stopped. So yeah, if you take these things from places, I would not advise taking any souvenirs home, because you will entangle with whatever happened in those places, or even the names of those places. Like if you go to a souvenir shop, there's power in words. So if you have like a historical site, like say if you get those smushed pennies from many of these like historical sites, they have them everywhere.
Souvenir,
and it has the name, like I visited here or something like that. I use them in our orgone pieces to do that same sending the torsion field back. Because I know what I'm doing in that area. But if somebody takes one of those, again, they're entangling their memory with a moment in time, which normally you'd expect somebody to do. But then in your mind or in your energy, that becomes a back door where things can constantly, if they can't harass you here, they go into that memory and harass you. And from a point in time, if you have an anchor point like that penny. So it loops back into your head and can mess you up and basically curse you at the same time. It's slower, it's much slower, but it happens. It can happen over a many year period, and slowly denigrate abundance and family life, relationship, everything past that point. So it's really interesting that they sell those things, even though it's a souvenir. One could say there was a bit of an agenda in there to get people entangled, even though that's kind of a stretch. But still, that's how it ended up being, whether that was the original intention or not. That's what I was able to discover about that kind of curse, a slow brewing one that happens very teeny over a period of time. Which I find very interesting. But yeah, pieces of land, yeah, you never want to take it if it's if your intuition is telling you don't do it, just please don't do it. Even if you're curious as to what would happen, your curiosity will be satiated very quickly when you get started getting accosted by crap. Yeah,
Curiosity killed the cat.
Exactly.
But curiosity always got the better of me.
Exactly. Yeah. If you want to put the fork in the light socket, be my guest. But it's like, but
yeah, I was thinking my wet tongue.
Exactly. like somebody looking a battery or something like that. Yeah, it turns out being that. But I found that very interesting. One of the cases,
toasted tongue.
Exactly. One of the cursed cases that I ran across and that I keep seeing pop up over and over again is the Island of the Dolls.
Oh yeah, down in Mexico.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. I have a couple tabs open here. You can't actually. I'll do share screen here. Let's see. Come on. All right.
Very nice. Yeah, nice background.
Dolls here. Yeah, this Island Dolls, Isla de la Muñecas in Chinampa of the Laguna de Teluzia, and one of the main attractions of the channels located in the channels of. God, I can't pronounce this. Okay. I can't. It's not the center of Mexico.
Xochimilco.
Yeah, it's insert Mayan word here, so it's like I can't pronounce that.
Xochimilco.
The dolls, various styles and colors found throughout the island. Originally placed by the former owner of the island, Julian Santana Barrera, who passed from a heart attack in 2001. He believed the dolls helped to chase away the spirit of a girl who drowned years ago. Sources say he was close to the same spot where the girl drowned. This goes right back into what I was saying before. They even say that there is an entity that has formed in that spot too, like this weird, creepy entity that formed in those channels after a while. And what happened is, a girl drowned, and then there was this doll apparently close to the location of this. Let's see. I'll go into this a little bit. According to legend, young girl drowned entangled among the lilies of the canal, and her body was found on the banks of the Santampa Chinampas. Santana claimed to have heard the girl crying out, "I want my doll," and terrified, hung up the doll he found near the girl's body. Sorry, folks, I'm not dumping on Hispanics at the moment, but some of you guys tend to be very superstitious and amplify these curses too. I'm not dumping on your culture at all. I'm just saying this is what happened. After the event, every time he went outside, he claims to have found a new doll hanging from one of these trees. He later died in the same spot the girl drowned. Many believe that his death was caused by the girl's spirit, which still haunts the island. What happened in this case, it was one of these mutating curses that took place. Same thing that I was talking about before, where something was trying to get people to perpetuate or mutate this curse. Well, in this case, they thought the doll was a protector. So many people keep sending dolls to that place, amplifying this energy. Now, is it amplifying the curse? No, because the whole object of the exercise was protection. But the original thing that took place was he heard this girl saying, I want my doll. So therefore, as a sign of respect, they started giving this, putting all these dolls up. But at the same time, they are helping this ghost to linger on the island by basically saying, here's your doll, here's your doll, here's your doll. But at the same time, a lot of these dolls, I felt this when I saw this episode, again, a Ghost Adventures, where they went to the island of dolls. I could feel how creepy it was. I could feel this really horrible stigma, especially with all the dolls that were sent there. People started to send cursed dolls and everything to this place. And it's gotten severely creepy energy there, which Island of the Dolls, I would want to go there once just to check it out of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
That's where my curious side would outweigh anything else.
I think it'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, but in this case, yeah. Do I think the little girl is still around? Yeah, I think a lot of people are holding her there through that veneration. Not necessarily worship level, but it's like this. And with ghosts, the way you form ghosts is either through an injustice, more than likely she was murdered, or pushed in some way, or some maybe some lie was formed around it in the beginning, or there wouldn't be necessarily a ghost there. If she had just drowned and there was some trauma, yeah, that would have also done it. But I felt an enormous amount of fear, like somebody murdered her or something like that, or left her to die. Now her energy is being held there, and it's turning into this big mutated thing that's happening. There's this museum that in Connecticut, another one in Connecticut that I've been sending haunted objects to, owned by a guy named John Zaffis. And
he's the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yep. And he still heads this museum where you can send haunted objects to. And he obviously knows what he's doing. That's where I sent the Balinese mask that I had back. I sent it to him. And it stopped the curse energy around.
But apparently, I was reading about him. He does like binding rituals to them and makes them to where they are trapped, or makes it safe, I guess, for all the.
Yeah, and he uses salt a lot of times, like I do around the property. He does all of that. Yeah. And that one I sent to him. Funny stories surrounding that cursed mask. I brought it to the post office in this big ass box, brought it there. I gave it to the postman that was there. I said to this lady that was there, I said, "Oh, here's a monster for you." And she goes, "Oh no, I've seen boxes that big." And under my breath going, I'm thinking, no, there's a real monster in here, And so, that was the funny story behind that. And it got to the museum properly. He probably burned it, but he could have burned it, or he could have kept it in salt binding or something like that. But it's unknown what John Zaffis did to it. So if he's listening to this at some point, I would be curious to know what happened to it. But yeah, that was an instance where we had to send that off. But the Island of the Dolls, I think, if I were to bring like shungite and some of my clearing powders there, I think it would change the energy dynamic, and put shungite in the waterway there. Anybody visits the Island of the Dolls, bring some shungite nuggets with you and throw them in the waterway there. When you're taking a trip there, if anybody's even allowed there anymore. I've been hearing conflicting stories. Some people say people aren't allowed there. Some people say they've opened it to tourism. So I've heard both. So I don't know which is true. But I thought that was an interesting story to integrate into our talk.
Yeah, it is. It's like it'd be freaky to go there. I don't know. Like I said, especially at night.
Oh yeah, to get the Beaver box or something like that in the middle of the night. Yeah, like at 2 or 3 in the morning. Yeah, that would be
freaky. I'm gonna dive on into one more story.
All right.
We got this is kind of an interesting one. Did this cursed ancient ring inspire Tolkien's trilogy? And this is an article from historyofyesterday.com and published by Julia Montanari. They're not very good with names, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I've been horrible with names today. Third Italian name there, yeah.
But this is the ring. If you're looking on your screen, it's kind of nice, It's kind of ornate, unique, obviously, and loreful and cursed. In 2013, an ancient Roman gold ring associated with an obscure curse was put on exhibition by Britain's National Trust at the Vin, in 16th century country house in Hampshire belonging to the Shute family. The ring itself was nothing new, having been unearthed in 1785 in Silchester, when a farmer plowing his field caught a glimpse of metal. And let's just go right there, look at all, there's so much that farmers just plowing fields in that area of the world, there's so much history that there's probably dropped coins, a knight's belt buckle, there's probably all sorts of stuff out in these farmers' fields over there. And maybe there's still cursed rings still there as we speak today. Get your metal detectors out if you're listening across the pond and live over there. Silchester is a town of Roman origins and the site of many archaeological discoveries. Presumably, the farmer who found the ring later sold it to the Shute family, who were known to have an interest in history and antiques. That's how it ended up in the red bricked Tudor mansion, among terracotta busts and hand painted Latimo plates. And apparently, these people were pretty bougie. You know, they were. They had a lot of antiquities and things of the nature, and apparently it might have just got stuffed back in a case for who knows how long. Now, gold and silver range dating to Roman times abound in museums and archives around the world, but this particular range is different. We know its story, and it's a remarkable one. These are the remains, if you're looking on screen, of the Roman temple complex dedicated to Nodens. That's kind of neat. Just think of all the history around there.
Roman sites tend to have a lot of weird energy, cursed energy, and interesting history too.
One ring, one thief, one curse. About 1 inch in diameter, weighing 12 grams. Ring is a big one. It is engraved with the inscription "Sine Cane Vivas Inde," a misspelled Latin expression meaning "Sine Canis," living God, a common inscription for Roman Christians. The inscription should have read "Vivas in Dio." There's one I too many, and one O is missing, but the meaning is clear. Despite the Christian inscription, the square bezel is engraved with the profile of the goddess Venus. How do we know that this is Venus? Because the head is squeezed between the letters VE and NVS. The Romans were straightforward people. In 1929, during excavations at the site of the Roman temple of Nodens at Lydney Park, archaeologist Sir Mortimer Wheeler discovered a lead defixio, a cursed tablet, bearing the name Sine Canis in relation to the stolen ring. He made the connection with the ring to the vine and called upon J.R.R. Tolkien, then professor of Anglo-Saxon at Oxford University and an expert in etymology, to investigate the whole thing. The story apparently went as follows. In the 4th century AD, a Roman soldier named Sylvanus, stationed in Gloucestershire, visited a temple dedicated to the god Nodens, a Roman Celtic god associated with the hunting and healing. Nodens was also linked to a Roman tutelary deity of forests and hunting known as Sylvanus. Since the soldier's name was Sylvanus, it is likely he felt some kind of connection to this particular god. The temple was located about 80 miles from the vine. Sylvanus at the time owned a precious gold ring, which we can only speculate did not bear the inscription about Sine Canis, but only engraved Venus. And while at the temple, the ring vanished. Believing the thief to be some guy named Sinicanius, then pissed off, Sylvanus made a plea for divine justice. He left a sum of money as an offering and crafted a lead plate to which he wrote that Italian inscription, which I'm not even going to try to read, but it translates to, "For the god Nodens, Sylvanus has lost his ring and has donated 1/2 of its value to Nodens. Among those who bear the name Sinicanius, do not allow good health until he brings it back to the temple of Nodens." And excuse me, I forgot to read it. "For the love of Nodens, Sylvanus reign. My precious."
This does remind me a lot of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, because where, if you know the story of Lord of the Rings, where they forge the rings of power and they imbue them with specific like tasks or specific abilities, and you can do that. And this, if you had one ring to imbue all like the lust for power, like Sauron's ring, it would literally basically corrupt anybody and anything that wore it. So in this case, where that curse was put on it, of course, later on, if someone found that ring, it would imbue that until it was put back, literally in that spot, in the spot that he wanted it back. There is a game that I played years ago called Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare.
Yeah, that's cool.
The end of it, there's this cursed mask that he has to find and put back in a spot, and this Mesoamerican goddess ends the zombie curse. Well, this where he had to say a set of words and put it back, and then everything was restored. Well, then eventually Thief takes it again and brings up the zombie curse again years later. But this in this, if you were to, since it was such a very powerful the set of wording put on that, you would literally have to return to the spot at the moment in time that it was originally put on that spot. Think of it this way, like what I said before, certain words can also, and certain objects and certain like photographs or anything like that, and memories can even exist in a specific spot. And also the wording on the ring, and also wording associated with a particular spot. So if you were to take it from that, it would cause, again, this mutated entanglement. So therefore, putting it back is really the only thing to do to undo it. Then you can say a new set of words saying this curse is rescinded, revoked, and now we can remove it from this spot safely. You'd have to wind the clock back, set it to where it was energetically then, if you even knew that. Again, rewinding the history back, and then taking it from the spot, and then putting it in a museum. So you can then break the curse out by way of returning it, or and moving it, or in some cases you have to keep the objects on a place permanently if you don't know how to unbind the curse. But that person said it with such passion and such belief and such confidence that it imbued this object. There's another movie that we saw that had Jack Black in it called The House of the Clock in Its Walls. And there is where he's teaching this kid how to do spells and bindings and uncurse things and release things, and saying you have to say it with confidence and say it with absolute certainty, and knowing who you are in the moment as you're saying it. And when somebody is in that manifestation moment, it can generate these curses. When you're falling into this manifestation moment, especially if you've written it down, I always tell people, if they want to manifest something, write it down, because that's a form of a spelling, and to speak also. So yeah, I find that very interesting surrounding the ring, and the fact that Tolkien used it and turned it into the one ring to rule them all. I find that very interesting that of course he would have used that. He used a lot of inspiration that was around him from World War I, but also the Battle of the Somme, with Helm's Deep, and the Lord of the Rings series, but also with the mystical. He got it from actual stories of elves. I found out he did some channeling himself from some of his own soul history in that as well, and he got inspirations from things like that ring. I find that interesting that was all added in, because it's all true how he depicted it. And even we haven't seen it yet, but the series upcoming, which is The Rings of Power on Amazon, we haven't seen that yet. Where it talks about the formations of all the other rings of power as well. So rings are also very important. I wear them on these meridians on my fingers here. This is silver, and this one's cat's eye. This one's lapis and opal. I got these as gifts. This one, a client paid me with this one, and then my mother gave me this one. But what happens, and she also gave me one that was ammonite that I used to wear, but the stone's loose, so I couldn't use it anymore. But the reason I wear them on this meridian here on the ring finger, the reason why this is so important is this meridian that goes up the arm and up the neck here into part of the head and the brainstem is an energy meridian that circles around and goes straight here. And it can get clogged pretty easily. So I'm thinking, this is just a theory of mine, they declared that the ring finger, so that either a curse could be bound on someone's meridian and clog them up and cause a variety of health conditions for them in some way. Or you see, like in some movies where some poison goes up the arm and goes up the neck or something like that. Somebody touches it. It's like that, where you can perform a binding on somebody, and also on people in sessions. I found curses on people that I saw an etheric ring put around their ring finger that was literally sucking dry all of their abundance again and all of their good things in their life. So like dark magicians like to curse the ring fingers a lot, and not just the heart and the head like you'd expect, or the back, or anything that supports, but the ring fingers, and especially the right ring finger. I've seen that most of all, and the silver blocks these curses a lot. So this is where silver comes in, like the old vampire and werewolf myths, them being stopped with silver. That's absolutely true. There's a lot of entities that can't be around silver. You've seen it like in the movie Dracula Untold, where he couldn't stand on the silver coins and stuff like that. It's like that. So I use that on these meridians, and it tends to block anything that something tries to get into those parts of my hands. I found that very interesting how this tied into that, because it's something that's not well known about. One of the cursed parts of the body can be the meridian and the arms and the neck like that.
Interesting.
It gets clogged, especially when touching stuff. It can get clogged anyway. You need like Reiki sessions to get rid of that. But curses hit that finger specifically, in some cases.
Very interesting. I got one more story, then Isaac can take us out if you'd like.
Okay.
Let me go back to screen share. This is an interesting one. Sometime maybe we can have a chance to visit it. Bye bye ring. Bye bye my precious.
My precious. I can't maintain it. I don't know how Andy Circus does that. Yeah.
Bye bye my precious. I love the Black Angel of Death.
You almost want to cough up something when you're doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Now, everybody, if you're at home, see if you can do that voice right now. What's his name again? That Gollum.
Gollum, but also the original name was Schmeagol. But Gollum in Lord of the Rings meant murderer. So in the River People language, and if people see the movies or the books, he was originally Schmeagol, and then he turned into Gollum, the cursed creature. Yeah.
I don't care if you at your kids' bar mitzvah. I don't care if you're at work right now. I don't care if you're at supper with your mom. I want you to stop right now if you're listening to this and try the Gollum voice and say, who's ever next to you, hello, my precious.
I did this one time when on a funny note, after I was hurt. I did this at my father's place, when he put on Lord of the Rings, and I did the Malus process, and I did that to him, and he's like, "You do that a little too well. Stop it." It freaked him out. So yeah.
Well, this is out there to go with the dogs. Now, this is the Black Angel of Death, and it's an article from GoIowaAwesome.com. So, and it's an article by Mike Jones. But in 1839, Iowa was not even yet a state, and its territorial capital was located in Burlington. The Iowa Territory was actually what would eventually become our great state, along with the majority of Minnesota and the Dakotas seen here. So if you're looking on screen, you'll see a picture of the Black Angel of Death. It's a cemetery artwork, and there's the Iowa Territory, Nebraska Territory, Dakotas. La-di-da, it's located in Oakland Cemetery. I'm going to skim through it. But the official story goes something like this. Teresa Dozel Fedelvert was born in Bohemia, Czech Republic in 1836 and was a practicing physician. When she immigrated to Iowa City with her son, Eddie Dozel, Eddie died of meningitis at 18 and was buried in Oakland Cemetery. To honor him, she had a monumental tree stump with an axe sticking out of erected over his grave. This presumably was a metaphor for a life cut short. Teresa moved to Oregon and married her second or third husband, Nicholas Fedelvert, who also died. And so Teresa returned to Iowa City in 1911 with her husband's ashes in tow. Of note, per the Gazette piece on, I'm sorry, Penny's trying to take the hat off the top of my head.
No, you're fine. Doggies do that.
Stop. You're so silly, Penny. Stop. Mr. Fedelvert had an estate value of $30,000 at that time of his death. It's $800,000 today. So she ended up going back with her husband's ashes in tow here. Mrs. Fedelvert started to make plans to construct a monument for her family and eventually commissioned sculptor Mario Corbel, who was also a native of Bohemia and was making an impression at the Art Institute in Chicago. The angel sculpture was made of bronze and took months for Corbel to create, with it eventually arriving in the Iowa City in November of 1912. There seems to be some dispute about whether or not it was immediately installed by Mrs. Fedelvert, was supposedly unhappy with the final result, but regardless, she and her family were interred beneath the angel as early as 1918 and as late as 1924 when she died. Eddie's tree monument was also moved alongside the statue. Oh, that's kind of sweet. Look at this view if you're looking. The tree statue, life cut short, and the Black Angel of Death. Definitely unique. Very unique. But here's some lore behind it. This is a photograph from 1939 right there.
Oh, the Black Angel. Yeah, that's interesting. Another imbued object. Imbued set of circumstances where where, like I said, certain words or certain phrases were said around it, and it's essentially like statues are another one that can actually get entanglements on them or entities possessing them. So if this is harming anybody, the graveyards are not exempt from this. So and cemeteries are not exempt from this. So if anything is possessing this object, that could be cleared. What type of material did they say it was built out of again?
Well, it's actually built out of bronze, and it says here that the statue's transformation from bronze to black doused gasoline on the urban legend fire, and so the Black Angel of Death became the local legend. So aging, or something, most likely aging, oxidation has changed the bronze into black, so it gives us this mystic look. But some of the myths surrounding this particular statue is Teresa Feldervert was a very mysterious woman, and her evil caused the angel to turn black, which would serve as a constant reminder of the sins of the family. There was a storm on the night following Teresa's burial, and the angel was said to have been struck by lightning. A man erected the monument over his wife's graves, and because of her unfaithfulness to him during their marriage, the angel blackened to serve as a reminder of her sins. A preacher's son is buried beneath the angel, and it turned black because the preacher had murdered his son, and the angel watched a Todd Lichter coached Iowa basketball game. I don't know what world that's about. Somebody must have been smoking some good grass or whatever.
Right. But with this, the statue became the embodiment after a while of all that sin and torment and debauchery or whatever, like murder, darkness, and it became like that embodiment after.
I think it's kind of freaky. Obviously, that's probably the town, thing to do. Hey, go up there, play Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, like in Nebraska, the legend of Bloody Mary, yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's an interesting one too. I'll have to dive into it. Do you want to have Isaac come through to give a little?
Oh yeah. So also, people are wondering what I'm doing with my eye for whatever reason. It's been acting up, so that's why you've been seeing me do this the whole time. It's been driving me nuts. But yeah, every time a certain energies build up, this eye starts acting up now. Isaac, if you want to come in, yeah. Sometimes, I'll look down at this skull that sits here, and I'll see the face move. And sometimes he'll use it, even though he has an edifice outside. I have a communications arc set up for him outside. It's too powerful to bring in here. It overwhelms the house. But I put it out there, and he arcs it himself over to this one that's like right here. Turquoise is another one of those uncorruptible elements too, so that's why I used it in that. And I kept that one because it ended up being pretty cool. So.
Sweet.
Yeah, Isaac. Okay, can you come through, please? I know you were itching to come through here. He was laughing when we were doing like mild thing, so he's like,
I want to hear Gollum do a heavy metal album.
Oh God, I think there actually is, believe it or not, there actually is. I saw a heavy metal poster with the name Gollum.
Oh my gosh!
So
I want to hear Gollum sing Five Finger Death Punch. I'm giving up the society, my family,
Andy Serkis,
all my precious babies.
Andy Serkis could pull that off, yeah. So could Five Finger Death Punch. So yeah, that's funny. Okay, Isaac, you want to come through? Oh, I gotta take my hat off. My head's boiling in here. It's hotter than hell. Okay, let's see. All right, Isaac. Yes, I'll shut up so you can do it. Okay. He's always bragging on me. So, hang on, I gotta clear something out of my way here. Okay. Yes, this is actually a very interesting subject, especially about your feeble attempts at the Gollum voice. Yes, your process is this, indeed, these stories and these myth and lore. In this, the thing about the ring, he was absolutely correct with the curse binding of it. This did indeed inspire Tolkien, amongst other things from his own ancient history. The bit of interferences today are causing some stumbling in the channeling, so forgive the hiccups. The type of concept known as cursing is based not only in intention, but in the energetic imbuing thereof of that intention. Say, for example, you do have a ring that you have writing on top of, and you say that it is responsible for a particular type of talent, and say that then passes on to a great number of people, and they recognize its talent. Therefore, that object is forever imbued with that talent because of the intention and the co-creation. This is where it begins, in that creative center, both in the creative of the root, what you would call the root chakra, but the base of the sacrum mixed with that of the heart and the creative aspects of the mind. And those three, power of three aspects, then you can imbue an object in the writing aspects of creativity. Say if you were to write a poetic verse surrounding a particular person or a particular character, that particular character would start to imbue these traits. You could literally take a writing, create a character profile, and then imbue a living human with these traits. You can also script onto a clone as well, but that's in the government projects. That's a different discussion altogether, but you can literally imbue traits onto something that was never completely alive to begin with, kind of like a Frankenstein. But this also leads me to also the creation of some of these objects and the stories and the torment therein, that it just keeps getting replicated. He is correct. It can create an entanglement monster or a curse on a land. Like, say, if you curse a piece of land and it spreads like wildfire, it can become like a monster in its own right, or a virus in its own right. These particular objects that you've mentioned today, the dolls imbuing souls in them, this, yes, binding of souls can indeed happen into a crystal, into a skull, or into a doll. Things with faces or without, it can happen without as well, but it's easier with a face. Or in something wearable like a ring that can embody an allegorical concept of an emotion, a state of being, an intention, just like Sauron in the Lord of the Rings, he wanted to rule over everything. So therefore, the One Ring, to control all the other power rings, became the cursed, inverted concept or inverted thread of all of the rings of power and all of the emotional concepts, because all of the rings of power embodied certain emotional concepts. If you take those concepts and invert them, they become more of a sick, disgusting, twisted version of those concepts. It always starts with an intention, an emotion, or a co-creation of some sort, a base foundation for all curses, entanglements, and also manifestations. So I can go into questions if you like.
Yeah, I just have a few, one question in regards to a cursed item, and then just and a couple of simple questions in regards to curses themselves. I'm just going to say it. The Hope Diamond. What's up with it?
Oh, that was actually quite interesting. This was more of an entity entanglement, you see, an entity that originally was in the original stone that created the diamond. And when people either wore that on their person, wore that in either on their head or on their personage, this entity began to possess them. They say only men could be cursed by this, and this is part of the human co-creative aspect of this. The entity that was originally in it wanted to brew this curse in order to entangle large amounts of people at once, especially that in royalty, especially those that are in royalty that still have that around them are surrounded by these reptilian life forms. To this day, you call them Draco reptilians, but they go by a number of different names. This is essentially more of a demonic curse in that way, but this was more of an entity that was trying to lay claim to one person or one lineage aspect after another. You can see it as more of a lineage curse. Anybody that had any micro bit of, say, of some of that DNA from the original person that found it, or those that he gave counsel to, became those that were cursed by the Hope Diamond.
Very interesting. And simply to take people out in a good way, shape, fashion, and form, Number one, how can you possibly maybe identify that you might have a cursed object or a cursed item, or you just might be cursed? How can you identify that, and what can you do to get rid of it and eliminate it?
Interestingly enough, you two have mentioned this portion already, but I will expound on this, tracing things back to their origin and also knowing who you are. If things start to disrupt your life in some way and abundance starts to bleed away, or say you have people that walk away from you, if it isn't you changing and changing in your frequencies, and people naturally walk away that aren't supposed to be part of your life, that's a positive aspect. The negative aspect is when it keeps happening. When this repetitious thing keeps happening about you and other people that you encounter, this is technically a curse. The way you undo it is you trace it back to its point of origin or object of origin. If you have a cursed object, like say a Ouija board or something that could be associated with this, get rid of the object either by burning it or throwing it out. Some people like to douse it in oil and water, but revoking its presence is usually enough. But also remembering the time where your life started to go downhill, remembering that focus in time. I wouldn't normally say look into the past too much or be obsessed with the past, but it's usually this curse that tries to get you centered around a point in your own past. This is the breaking point. This is the part. This is the fracture, whereas you have to trace back to its origin. Even if you don't know how to do some of the magic tricks behind it, if you remember when your life started to go downhill, and then in your own mind begin to rewrite that moment into something more positive, you'll have broken that aspect of the curse. Now, granted, it does help having people around that know magic techniques and know these techniques, and rewriting techniques like he rewrites people's past lives and the like, and the narratives surrounding curses. But if you don't know how to do any of that, just think back to when your life started to fail, and then imagine that event going vastly differently. If you do this enough times, you'll have broken the curse. And if you don't feel if that you want to remain in that mindset, and that you stay away from saying, "Oh, I'm cursed," or I'm broken in some way. If you change your language and change your language in the moment, saying, "I'm free of this. I'm sovereign of this temple house is sacred. I am sovereign of these curses." If you start declaring these things and not seeing yourself as still cursed past that fixing point, then you will have gotten it. There's also things called lineage curses as well, where jinn cursed an ancestor, and now you're having to get rid of traits that no longer serve, or you get rid of the curse that negative nymphs, negative demonic reptilians like Draco and jinn have placed on.
And how do you get rid of a lineage curse?
You revoke its presence completely and fully by not engaging in some of the traits that maybe some of your ancestors did to that engaged in the curse, meaning don't utilize any of the darker traits that they did, and you just revoke the lineage curse's presence. In this case, by recognizing its presence, you will then begin to unwind that. Meaning also say your immediate parent had some traits that you don't like, that are not you, but yet you still possess them in your genetic memory. This is something that you can ask for an audit of your genetic memory and your soul memory to be able to start to purge these unwanted traits and not exhibit them any longer. I know that's strange, but by revoking these said traits, you can begin the process of that auditing and begin the process of getting rid of things from your ancestry that no longer serve the moment. I know these are long and involved, but there are no 100% in the moment easy fixes for curses, but these are the methods by which you can get rid of them.
Very amazing. That's an excellent way to take it out on the high horse. Thank you much.
Yes, this has actually been fascinating for myself as well. And to those of you now trying the Gollum voice, I highly encourage this as well. So this is actually a funny note to end this on. So goodbye, my precious. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm getting wrecked. I can't do it no more.
Yeah, I know. I was starting to not be able to do it. He thought that was hilarious. So, he wanted to do this really loud, exuberant one, and my throat was starting not to be able to do it. So it's like, I can get away with it maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's pretty much it. Like the sucking in helium from a balloon or something. It messes you up after a while. But yeah, I thought this was a very fascinating conversation.
It was. I dug it. I hope everybody out there learned a lot. And I hope you can, if you've been questioning if you might have some cursed objects, or if you just wanted to learn more about these type of topics, we hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your stories. If you've had any weird, happenings in regards to an item you may have bought at a garage sale or whatever it may be, let us know. I hope you're avoiding the curses out there. But until next time, we're going to catch you on the flip side.
Yes, and you are now exiting the conspiracy sector. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.